So we are going to bring this council public hearing to open, and today is January 15th. The time is 6:15 p.m. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to City Planner Jacob Gratian. So he'll lead us through this public hearing.
Thank you, Mayor Massey. This is a quasi judicial land use hearing. The subject of this hearing is an appeal of the Planning Commission's denial of a conditional use permit for variances to build a triplex on a lot. The subject property is identified in the county assessor's map as 5 North 1 West, section 34 CC, lot 9200. The applicant is Dan Hatfield and the owner is LeGround Townhomes LLC, otherwise known as Dan Hatfield. Because quasi judicial proceedings require the observance of certain procedural formalities, we must take a few moments to cover some preliminary matters and required statements. So, a member of the council wish to declare a potential or actual conflict of interest or bias in this matter? Okay. And then, this question is for all you out there in the audience or in Zoom land. Does any member of whoops, I skipped something, sorry. Does any member of the council wish to declare an ex parte communication or site visit? Okay.
You drive by there regularly if that counts. But
Yeah, it's something to declare
By site visit.
as long as it doesn't feel like it
okay, thank you.
disturbs your ability to make a fair decision. So now it's the audience's turn. Does anyone from the audience object to the ability of the counselor to make a fair decision? Okay. So generally, the order of the proceedings will be as follows: required statements, which we're doing right now, staff report, applicant's presentation, those in favor of the application, those neutral, those opposed, and then rebuttal by the applicant, final questions by the council, close of the record, deliberations, and decision. So the following statements are required to be made at the commencement of the hearing pursuant to City Code and ORS 197.797 subsection 5. Following list is the applicable substantive criteria for this decision, and that is St. Helens Municipal Code 17.100.040 and 17.108.050. All testimony, arguments, and evidence must be directed towards the applicable substantive criteria as described, or the criteria in the comprehensive plan or land use decision or regulation, which the person believes applies to the decision. Failure to raise an issue, including constitutional or other issues related to the proposed conditions of approval in the hearing, in person or in writing, or failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford the approval authority and opportunity to respond to the issue, precludes appeal to LUBA, the Land Use Board of Appeals, on that issue, and precludes an action for damages in circuit court. So with all that formality out of the way, let's talk about the specific proposal. So this is a lot on the corner of Wyeth and North 5th Street. It's a lot that had a triplex on it for decades. And that triplex, the parking for that triplex was entirely on Wyeth Street. Around 2001, there was a fire that destroyed the building. So the building's gone, it's been demoed. And the significance of that is it was what we call a non-conforming use. There was a triplex in existence. It was in existence before the zoning gods painted their brush in the zoning map and said, this is the way it's going to be. We don't bomb properties that are non-conforming. We say, okay, well, they are existing non-conforming, and then cities have rules that deal with those. Our rules say that when a non-conforming structure is destroyed more than 50%, and some other things discontinued, then those non-conforming rights go away, and that fire pretty much did that for this case. So I've been talking with the applicant about this for a while. We talked about his options for variances. He wishes to basically replicate more or less what was there with the triplex and 100% on-street parking along Wyeth. And so to do that, he needs a conditional use permit because multifamily, 3 or more units on a lot, is a conditionally permitted use, and so that's a public hearing. But then also some variances. We'll talk about those details shortly. The planning commission basically wasn't convinced, and they denied everything. The applicant has the right to appeal to the appellate authority. When the planning commission is the decision maker, that means it's you, and that's why we're here. So now you have that hot potato to decide. I'm going to talk about each variance to help you think about those. And in many cases, you know, some of the variances really depend on that conditional use permit surviving. So I'm going to get up and move around a little bit to point as needed. So the first variance has to do with lot size. So in this zoning district, R5, if you wanted to have a triplex, you would need a lot size that is 7,500 square feet. And actually, let me back up before we get into that. We need to talk about variance criteria. So the things you're supposed to think about in granting someone a variance. There's 5 standards, and I'm just going to kind of paraphrase it. It can't be a use variance. So if you wanted to build a tire factory here, it would be a clear no. Of course, that's not what he's proposing. And that has to be the minimum variable to the standard to provide relief. So you can't necessarily ask for Mount Everest when a molehill will resolve the issue, for example. So it's kind of a question of scale. And then there has to be something unique to the property that's kind of different from other nearby properties to help justify the circumstance. So those are kind of the things, the parameters to think about when we're talking about these variances. So like I said, for a triplex, you need 7,500 square feet. This is one of our classic 5,800 square foot lots in this side of town. So it's about 29% too small. And you know, one of the things we talked with the planning commission about, because basically your density cap has to do with the number of units per area. So you don't just have a bunch of people crammed in one place. And so one thing we talked about is both Wyeth and 5th Street are oversized rights of way. And so there's more area there. And so that is something you can hang your hat on. The planning commission, like I said, wasn't convinced, but that's just food for thought. So the next one is a reduced setback along Wyeth Street. So this is a corner lot. It's along Wyeth here on the south side, and then 5th on the west side. And that corner lot means that this would normally be 10 feet. You'd have a 10-foot setback. So he is proposing about 4.5 feet. If you look at some of the photos in the staff report, you can see there's some grade differentiation from Wyeth and that. And some of the foundation is closer to that. And so you could think about the foundation, at least what's remaining of it, and if that should be basis for that reduced yard. I should say that this would also be 10, and you don't quite have 20 between the two. So for example, you know, it can't just be shoved back. So based on this plan, and this variance is based on this plan, it kind of needs that setback. And that could apply to a lesser dense proposal like a duplex. A duplex would be outright permitted, wouldn't need the conditional use permit. And so there's the potential of granting the variance, but for a lesser use. You can't grant more than what is proposed, but you can grant less. So think about the duplex thing, and if the triplex is giving you the heebie-jeebies, maybe you would be receptive to that. So parking. The parking reduction. So for the triplex, they're all 2-bedroom units. He would need 6 off-street parking spaces to achieve that. And it's kind of a confined lot, especially when you think of the topography. And so let's say you were trying to fit that here. It doesn't quite fit within this 58 feet. And so I don't know how you would get that off street. If it was a duplex, he would only need 2.
Jacob, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
If it was a duplex, how does that change the mathematical dimensions for that? Would you still have the 4 foot, less than 20 feet between the two, or can you?
Yeah,
Saying,
I do. This setback would still apply.
for a variance for the 4 foot, right?
Yeah,
Okay. So I'm trying to understand, if you could help me understand the difference. I mean, obviously dimensionally, it'd be smaller footprint by being a duplex. How does that change when you're saying lesser, right? You go from,
Yeah,
explain that methodology, please.
I'm saying lesser because the density would be less, 2 instead of 3. Now, one thing that the planning commission had reservations on, because we talked about, okay, well, are you willing to grant him anything? Even though you're not receptive to the entire proposal. And, you know, their response there was, well, there's not really a plan, so we're uncomfortable granting that. So after the hearing, you know, Dan appeals it, so, okay, Dan. If you were to have to resort to a duplex, would you use this same footprint? And he replied, yes. In fact, I talk about that in the report. And so that would be the DACA proposal, is to use this same footprint, same plan, but only have 2 dwelling units within instead of 3.
Could you clarify something for me? I could have sworn earlier today you said it was 1.5 parking areas per bedroom, which would mean that would be 3 per unit.
It is, the parking is based on the size of the dwelling.
I thought you said it was based off the bedroom. So a studio apartment, if it was a studio, then it's a half a parking spot, and 1 bedroom was 1.5 because you usually go over, you said, right?
Yeah, a studio is 1,
One.
1 bedroom is 1.5.
So if it's a 2-bedroom apartment.
Yeah, these are all 2-bedroom.
So you should be asking, it should be 3 parking spots per unit, and then there's 3 of them. So it should be 9 parking spots, not 6.
It's for a dwelling unit that has 2 or more bedrooms. So it could have 2 bedrooms or 1,000 bedrooms, 2 parking spaces.
Well, that's weird math.
And basically.
Trying to make sense of what you said earlier.
Yeah, so you have 3 pools. You have the studio, that's 1 space. You have the 1 bedroom, that's 1.5. And then you have, if the unit has 2 or more, then that's 2 per the 2 or
You
more.
can have 4 bedrooms and still only need 2 parking spaces.
That's correct.
That is weird.
Yeah.
That makes no sense to me. What the heck? Why even have the rule then?
But, and I don't think I've ever seen. I don't think I've ever seen that.
Yet.
Where there's a lot of bedrooms, but it does kind of go into the SRO conversation, which isn't this.
I was just trying to track the parking spot thing because that threw me off because I was paying attention to your numbers from earlier and I was like.
And I've been looking at this stuff for years, so I just rattle it off, and
Okay.
so it's okay
Like that.
for clarification.
Given the width on Y Street, would you ever consider doing a 0 lot line on that? Not if there's no parking there, if something else was to go on, to give it more space in the lot.
With the variance, yeah, with the variance, but the request is,
No, I realize that. I'm just seeing what the avenue would be. You needed to shove it in so you get more room around the back or something like that.
yeah, it would be a variance, yeah. So then the parking, now, I'm gonna make it even more complex. So state law restricts the things that we can impose on single-family dwellings and duplexes, and that includes parking. So if this was a duplex, no more than 2 spaces can be required. So you go from 6 to 2. Big difference.
Per unit, per duplex.
A duplex is 2. The duplex could be 1 million square feet of size,
With 400
with
bedrooms.
400
You
bedrooms.
only require 1 parking spot.
But if it's still a duplex, we're restricted to 2.
It's supposed to be that new math they talk about.
I was gonna say, this is literally not mathing to me, so that's weird.
And it's the issue is when you're talking about duplexes and single family dwellings, there are more state protections on those uses, at least for St. Helens. We're not above, I think, 20,000, and when some other things in population kick in. But the state says you have to be nice to these uses. You cannot treat duplexes different than single family dwellings. Now, if you wanted to require single family dwellings to have 500 parking spaces, then duplexes would have to have that. You have to treat them similarly. But when we get 3 or more units, now we are outside of the state restriction. And then we can go to our good old standard multifamily standards. Fun, huh? So that's why if this is a duplex, you would only have to have 2. And state law restrictions and requiring more. And so for the parking, does it fit? And so one thing Dan talks about in his request is if it is going to be a duplex, he would still like the 2 spaces to be here. It is more practical to fit those here. So that's just a consideration for you. And then the other one had to do, so when we're talking about multifamily development, there's certain elevation requirements that are supposed to be met. For example, every 30 feet, if we're talking about big buildings, there are offsets, which include extensions or recesses of at least 8 feet, and then breaks in roof elevation of at least 3 feet. In this case, it doesn't meet those explicit numbers, but there are enough articulations. I think it meets the intent of the code, but that stuff wouldn't apply if it was a duplex. So there was the exterior elevation requirements for multifamily that he's also requesting a variance to. And I think probably the way to organize your thoughts is to think about these variances. Do these variances have merit? And that'll kind of figure out whether or not the conditional use permit can be salvaged, or maybe they'll apply for those requests could apply to a duplex if you're so inclined as the decision-making body. And that's what I got to say. Any questions before public comments?
Is there any strain or any concerns about utilities or sanitary services and things like that? What does the sewer system look like in this area?
The utilities are available, so that's not a freak out issue. Because there was a triplex there before, we're not looking to impose the sewer fee. If it was a vacant lot and there was a land use application, then maybe, but in this case, it doesn't make sense. So utilities are fine. There are buffer requirements from the surrounding properties if it's a triplex. And we had some comments from the fire department about wanting to make sure they can get around it. And so we've included that condition in there. But that stuff doesn't apply at all if it's duplex. So with that, applicant, would you like to present?
That's fine.
Yeah, it's just to let you know is I take this off. Be here a little bit.
Can we,
Dan Hatfield. Man Hatfield,
I'm Guy coming.
Guy Cummings,
Being here tonight.
is, we put in for this variance last time. I don't think, not saying nothing about Jacob, because he's been really good, but he didn't prevent it like he did tonight. He did a lot better job tonight. Thank you. And anyway, my deal is when I bought this, I bought it as a triplex. I'm paying taxes at the triplex right now. I'm not trying to ask for anything that wasn't there before.
You the original owner of this?
No, he said he bought
But
it
he
as
bought
a
it.
triplex.
Thought he had it.
He bought it.
Yes. I bought it after the fire.
Oh, you bought it after
That's
the
why I'm trying to figure
fire?
out, he
Oh,
owned it
okay.
as a triplex.
Yeah, not, it was there. Yes, and as far as the sewer and water stuff, it's on the property already. So,
Just hasn't been being used because there's nothing there right now.
No.
That's why I was asking, because I don't know how long ago the fire was, but,
In
well, it
21.
was in 21.
okay, so not that long ago. Okay.
Yeah, so, but that's why I asked for a triplex, because that's what I bought it as. I didn't have to tear it all the way down. And I thought I could have saved 60% of it if I wanted to, but it didn't fit in what I wanted to build. I went and had it as duplex, especially, I mean, a triplex, especially built for that wall that was there. The wall's there. I can't, even if you don't let me use that wall has to stay there because it's holding up the road.
Holding up the sidewalks, the walkway, all that through there.
So it don't benefit to move that back any. You know, my deal is there's a lot of reason why I think it would be, and even the neighbors that bitched about it last time was okay with a triplex. His wife wanted, well, we can't park out in front. Why should you park out in front? Well, that happens all over St. Helens. I can take you down Fifth, Sixth, even Wyatt, and it's all happening there. If I can't get a triplex there, I would entertain a duplex. So, I mean, I need to do something with the property one way or the other. You know, and I spent a lot of money tearing it down because the neighbors was bitching and stuff like that. And Jacob said, if you tear it down, you probably have a better chance of doing this and that. So I did, but it cost me $20,000 dump fees. You know, so it wasn't a cheap deal to tear it down. So, but that was my deal in trying to get a triplex on there. But if I can't have a triplex, I at least need a duplex.
Do you have pictures on your system there that show the pictures of the duplex as it was and then what we want to build?
I've always seen pictures in there.
Yeah, there's the pictures in the staff report, the same ones that were in the planning commission staff report, yeah. And good old Google Earth, we were able to get a shot of the former use that was there, so yeah, there's a good picture of it. Yeah. Bit earlier.
Okay, there's the wall you're talking about.
Okay, so if you look at the front right here, where the sidewalk is, there's not much room between the building and the sidewalk itself. And then down below, it's like 8 feet straight down on that wall. There's basement underneath there that was another unit.
So there's two up top and one
Two on
up.
top, one on bottom. And with the ground on this end right here comes out, just look back probably 10 feet and then it does a sharp dive straight down. And that's why it's gonna be hard to build on in that case, because it's one big hole in there right now. I don't know if we have any pictures of after it's been tore down or not.
Yeah, it's the last photo. On this next page. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it right there.
So that's what it looks like right now.
Yes. And that wall is 8 feet tall.
A little bit of blight there, looks like, so.
That's one of the reasons we can't get off-street parking. Cause it's like an 8-foot hole down there.
You want to build in it, huh?
My wife said, you can get something easy once in a while.
That'd be worthwhile is easy.
I have a question. So from the wall, that blue building in the back, is that at the back of the property?
No, that's actually Wyeth running through there.
This.
No, I'm talking about to the left of that tree.
No, that's across the street, go that way, that,
Keep going.
farther,
Keep going.
right
over
there, that one.
Yes, that's a building there. That's the backside.
You've got enough room to put a triplex in there?
Yes. We still would have like 12 feet in the backyard.
Councilor Gunderson, that's looking at it from Fifth Street. It's a 58 by 100 lot, and so that's looking at it from the narrower side.
Okay, gotcha.
We have pictures of what we want to build.
You have the picture of what I want to build, right?
Yeah, the elevations.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are in there.
You saw that.
Maybe they could see that.
Yeah, it's in their report. That's gonna be, yeah, for the.
Three like this.
Jacob did a very good job on putting together a staff. Comprehensive.
Oh, I just seen it.
Jacob, can you run back really quick? If a duplex is put there, which the variances for the height differential, like for the roof, that doesn't apply anymore,
Yeah,
right?
that just doesn't
So
matter.
can you Just really break down really quickly the differences of what variance would still be in play if in fact this was approved for a duplex versus a triplex.
Yeah, sure. So if we're talking about a duplex, the variances that could potentially be considered would be so the lot size thing doesn't matter. The reduced setback along Wyeth, and that 4.5 feet is roughly where that wall's at. And then the parking reduction is still at play. He would like a 100% off-street parking reduction, so the off-street parking is on the street. It's reduced because now you're talking about 2 spaces instead of 6. So the question there is, do you still grant that variance or do you require it to be on the property? And then, yeah, the elevations don't matter. So it's really the reduced setback along Wyeth and parking if we're in the duplex realm.
So did you, and I'm just catching up with this, did you have an option to go back to the planning commission and discuss these difference on doing a duplex?
No. I don't know why they denied it because they didn't take nothing in consideration one way or the other. The parking, the lot. The only bitch that we had right then was the parking up on top. That's the only thing they was really concerned about. Well, I can't put a trailer in front of my house. Why do they have to have parking in front of that house? Which is apples and oranges. I mean, nobody wants to break down their car and work in the front yard. You know? So that's the deal is that you have to have some restrictions. They don't want the trailers parking out in. But even if people that bitch about it, I go right there today, their car's parked out in front.
Questions?
And this is a picture of the triplex here.
How
It
many?
looks nice. I mean, it looks like a nice build.
We do build a good home. We build all around St. Helens. And
A little bit confused because I thought the first diagram we looked at showed the parking spots. So that would, you guys are proposing to have our parking spots that would be not on the property?
no,
If
It's on the
that's
street.
The site plan,
And they would be front.
those parking spots, if you know the sidewalk
Me too.
and the grayer area.
Mhm.
So
That's a parking.
The property is behind that sidewalk.
Okay.
So they're talking about putting the parking basically along the big old shoulder in the street.
And assuming that a lot of the people on that street are already parking like that.
Yes.
Yes.
Even the church
And
parking all across front of it.
if you go down to Wyatt and right off 30th, there's a fourplex there. There's only 6 parking lots, spots for them. They park across the street. They're not on property either.
Do you have any more questions for the applicant?
Well, I feel like we got everything that we could from you guys. I don't know. We just need to make a decision on it.
Well, you will have a rebut if there's, well, for any testimony, you'll have the ability to rebut, so. Okay, we'll move on
Thank
to
you.
public testimony. And we'll start with anybody who's here or in Zoom land, who would like to speak in favor of this matter. So those in favor of this proposal. So we'll have in favor, neutral, or opposed. So those are your choices.
Neutral, I'll say.
Do you want to come up here and give your name and
Yeah, I think we're at the, there's no support, so it'll be the neutral folks.
I guess I may be negative in some ways. My name is Pat Ferry, and I live at the other end of that property. I live on 4th and Wine. And he's on 5th and Wine. And my first thing is not particularly about the building, but I just wanted to come to speak first of all about how the city allowed that property to sit there for almost 4 years. It was awful. It's burned down, looked terrible, had vagrants in it. We called the police. And when I called the planning commission and I called the code enforcer, I even called the mayor. And they all said they knew exactly what it was and they were working on it. But it took almost 4 years. It was Halloween of this year that they finally tore it down. So enough said about that, but it was not happy times in the neighborhood. Okay, I'm certainly in favor of the duplex rather than the larger one because of parking. But if you look down 5th Street, when you talk about that, if you go from Columbia up 5th Street to West Street, there's no multi-complexes in there. There are a few duplexes scattered. Same thing on Wyatt. If you go to the river over to 6th Street, there just aren't any large complexes. And traffic and parking is a real issue as it is now. So I think parking becomes an issue for that corner. And I know we all have to adjust, but I think when I asked him, when we weren't going, he said, well, I should be mad at the city because the city wouldn't let him do what he wanted to do. But I think sometimes you have to make adjustments. So I would urge you to accept, I guess, the planning commission's verdict, but I'm really glad to see something happening to the property. Okay?
thank you?
Uh-huh.
Is there anybody else who would like to speak in neutral on this matter? Okay. Is anybody who would like to testify in opposition of this proposal?
Pretty Preheim, I think it's pretty clear the triplex doesn't fit. It's not big enough, not enough parking. And he can do a duplex. And if he does a duplex, I think the setbacks that he needs for the duplex would be fine. But I think he needs to pose a duplex, go to the planning commission and ask them for that approval. And if they deny it, then they can come here. But I think it's premature for that. So I think that you should uphold your planning commission's decision and deny the triplex, and then he can reapply as a duplex.
Hello, Robin Dubsky, City of St. Helens. I would advocate that you go along with the planning commission's decision. They looked at it long and hard. It meets so little criteria. I drove by that house a lot when it was a triplex. It was a converted house into a triplex. So it's a triplex, very incongruous in the neighborhood. It's just full of single homes. And to jump through a whole bunch of hoops to put a non-conforming thing in makes no sense to me. If you could get the duplex in with parking, I disagree completely with parking. The church has like a marked out parking spot, but there's a lot of people walk there. They walk on that route to the river. It's that is the sidewalk. And so I think the parking is a problem in the city, and we put too dense a parking. So when we have a chance and a legal way and a remedy to not allow it, I think it's your job to say no and agree with the planning commission and deny the triplex. And then whatever comes back in the works, then we deal with that on a separate issue. I think it gets very muddy if you're switching around contingencies and conditions and variances. So I would advocate agreeing with the planning commission and denying the use and variance permits. Thank you.
Any other testimony in opposition or otherwise? Last call for testimony. Okay, the applicant, you can rebut if you so choose.
Yeah. Yeah, my deal is the parking is going to be an issue on a duplex or a triplex. But I think what should be done on this meeting is either tell me, yes, I can do a duplex, or no, you have to do a triplex. We're going to use the same footage for the triplex that we are the duplex. So the parking was already, I mean, you can go up, I'm sure the people that's parking out in front of their house right now don't have a permit, or usually permit to do that. It's just there to do. I don't understand how I can be punished for something that everybody else does. So, and I understand what this blacktop by the church is not a sidewalk. It is still part of the road. So I don't see how she can say that's a sidewalk. If more people walk down the beach, yeah, you're gonna walk on that. You ain't walk down the middle of the street. So that don't really, I don't understand how that even comes into play. But I do think that I would like to have decision of the setback on a duplex or triplex. It's gonna be the same setback. Is I can't do nothing with that wall because that wall cannot be moved. It's holding up the bank of the whole road. So that variance, I think, need to be there. The parking, we can argue about the parking all we want. If you want 2 parking spots, I can't see me going out in front of my duplex and putting a 20-foot parking there when you're gonna have 100 feet of it that you should blacktop. Why would you get blacktop just for the 2 parking part? Don't make sense. That's my spit on that one. So, okay, thank you.
So, any final questions of the council? I didn't see any. So hearing no further questions from the council, no further responses from staff. The public record closed, and this matter is returned to the table for deliberations and oral decision as part of the regular session.
This public meeting is closed.
He's not my CCMH and they'd get.
Nice, honestly.
Reverse it, it's like-
So we're gonna call this regular session to order. Today is January 15th. The time is 7 p.m. So this is my first regular session. And those that know me know that I am extremely unapologetically patriotic. So one of the things that I wanted to bring into this council is really celebrating our hometown heroes. So public service, active and retired military. So today we are going to have our hometown hero come up after I read a little bio about him, and then he will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So Martin Lewis Shear Jr., a proud veteran and hometown hero from St. Helens, served honorably in the United States Navy from 1978 to 1982, achieving the rank of E4 by the time of his discharge. During his distinguished service, Martin held various critical assignments, including roles such as tugboat engineer, AOR-7, ammunition oiler crew member, refrigeration replenishment ship technician, A-gang member, helo refueling specialist, and a steering operator. Captain's gig engineer, small boats engineer, ACR, air conditioning refrigeration technician, and air compressors specialist. His overseas deployment included significant time at Naval Station in Subic Bay in the Republic of the Philippines and participation in the Westpac deployment in 1981. Martin's exceptional service earned him the Navy Deployment Explanatory Medal and Navy accommodation aboard YTB 784 for service above and beyond the call of duty. Those accolades reflect his unwavering dedication, skill, and commitment to his duties and fellow service members. While celebrating Martin, it's also important to honor his family's remarkable legacy of service. His father served as a Seaman First Class, E3 gunner mate, his son as a Petty Officer Second Class, E5 hull technician, and his talented daughter Brooklyn is currently serving as a Petty Officer First Class E6 aviation electronics technician. Their dedication to our nation is truly inspiring and worthy of recognition. As a St. Helens native, Martin's contribution to our nation and his exceptional service to the Navy highlight the values of courage, dedication, and excellence that define a true hometown hero. Today, we're proud to honor and celebrate his service. So, Martin, if you will come up here and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm honored to be here. So as of 2006, one of our presidents signed in a decree allowing veterans to salute the flag. So if you are a veteran, please stand, uncover. If you are a civilian, cover your hearts and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you
Thank you.
so much for being
Thank you
here.
for coming.
And the plan is to be able to celebrate our hometown heroes at our regular sessions going forward. So thank you for being here and honoring us with your presence.
Thank you.
All right. Surprise, surprise. All right, so now it's time for visitor comment. This is an essential component of government meetings. Person has 3 minutes to speak, and we ask you kindly to really try to stay at the 3 minutes mark, please. I don't want to have to cut anybody off. Also, it's really vitally important that you sign in on the back on that form so that while you're making comments, if the city administrator or staff are taking any notes for actionable items, they know the best method to contact you. With that, we'll open up for public comment. When you come up, please provide your name.
Nicholas Helmick, City of St. Helens. So heavy heart coming here again today about something I've talked to in the past. Can't say any names, but as a lot of you know, I work at CCMH and we had an incident again where I don't know who oversees EMS. But there was a situation where a client had a very swollen tongue, was unable to swallow or breathe. EMS was called. We've, for some reason, don't have a good relationship with them. Not sure why. Maybe they're annoyed. We've told that's too far of a drive. We don't make any money off of you. Well, they advised this gentleman to go to urgent care. Gentleman went to urgent care, and then urgent care said, you need to go to the hospital immediately. EMS came and gave my employee a lot of attitude. We directed this EMS worker to go to Good Sam because he had a good experience with Good Sam. They refused, said that again, that's too far of a drive, and then just drove him to a hospital in Washington. And he's now having issues with getting that covered through his OHP, so we're having to work extra. So I don't know if there's some type of trauma-informed training that they can take. I know the police used to have that where they'd wear headphones that would simulate what schizophrenia was like. I just think that'd be great if they could do that again, or maybe if we get more funding, do that. Yeah, CIT, thank you. I know CCMH did that at one point, but I'm not sure when that fell off, probably before my time was there. So that's all I really wanted to say. Thanks, Julie. Congratulations.
Thank you for being here.
Ready. Stephen Toskey, City of St. Helens. So I did follow up and listen to the council work session following my comments, and I am very encouraged by the dialogue that I heard of the council under, led by our new mayor. A lot more discussion, a lot more open views being shared, a lot more back and forth ideas. I think it's a very positive change, and I'm looking forward to continue. We're healing now. We need to get our feet and move forward, making our city the vital city that of its potential. And I believe in all of you. And I believe that all of you under Mayor Massey's mayoral candidacy or tenure will do a great job. So I wanted to kind of make a few points here. So, and I didn't have these at the last thing because they're being made. So here was the original submission for the Millard Road property. That's 64 homes on 10,000 square foot lots. And this is 7 acres of open space. These are all 10,000 foot lots, okay? And this is what we ended up with. We ended up with 90 lots. The open space is decimated, and these are all 3,600, 3,800, 4,000 square foot lots. The direction of our city needs to go in a different way. And this is under the old leadership. And I don't want to be overly critical to Jacob and Jenny, because they're really operating under, Mayor Scholl. Russ said, one of his parting comments about Mayor Scholl was how much he was yelled at by him. I recall being yelled at by him. And so I really want to get us on track to moving forward with what's in the best interest of our citizens. And when I talk about what Mayor Scholl did on the vote was, okay, so this is the neighborhood of 6th Street where Mayor Scholl had his property. And you could see these houses. This is the house up. These are the houses across the street. Old homes, old St. Helens, very old home. And this is what Rick, 6 days after he didn't declare the conflict, came to the planning commission, said he wanted to put on 6th Street. What of these things don't belong? And here's what people are presented with. It's even in your brochures. Here's the manufactured home, but here's the reality. So you're painted a picture like this is what we're going to get, but this is really what we're going to get. And a lot of people are putting a lot of money in their houses, expending significant money, and to have something go in next to them like this would be horrible for them. Imagine the drop in the property values, and now they're stuck with it. And so this law needs to go back to the drawing board. There is no tweener. Today is the day it's got to be killed, because today's the day for the third reading. I have no idea if the council doesn't kill this thing. So there should just be a motion that ordinance 3306 is withdrawn, that the law is not passed, and it needs to go back to whoever to be brought again. And there were some comments about the rooming, the 6 rooms, the rooming house. When I was running for mayor, I was knocking on doors, and anyway,
Wrap it up.
I'll say this, we have commercial interests running apartments in our neighborhoods. They're buying homes, commercial interests are buying homes away from families. And one of the things I thought for a solution was, which didn't get in this law, which can be as we work on it more, is run these things in the apartment residential zones. Apartment residential, you bought a house where apartment can be built, that's where we run our apartments. And I very much thank you for your consideration.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else that have any comment?
Brady Preheim. So while I appreciate the intent in wanting to make the whole council part of the admin, you can't actually do that because of quorum rules. So you need to change those assignments. The rules are that if any more than 2 of you are assigned to a group, it's a quorum. So you can't assign the entire council to be admin. So that needs to change because you will violate rules about meetings. So you cannot have a quorum of counselors on a committee, or you will have to announce every time you meet. So that needs to be changed. And I realize that you're new, but someone should have informed you of that. I also would like to talk about again, the chief, and to have the city confirm that in fact he's retired. This has been going on for a long time. We have a city department that is short-staffed and is low on budget. And if in fact, when we've been paying him to not work, and if he's retired, then I would like that to be made public. And that we know that he's retired and that that's moving on. And we need to know that. And then also announce that the position is open so that acting Chief Hode can apply for that position. I think that he's a huge improvement over what we had before, and would like to see that process move forward so that he can be made a permanent replacement. And finally, we're still waiting to see the apology to John Walsh. You claim to want him removed, and he's not. And I think that you will find that John is not a city manager, he's a city administrator, and he didn't do anything that the 4 people sitting next to you didn't tell him to do. So if you had a problem with him, it actually wasn't a problem with him, it's with the people that are sitting here. And so it wasn't the mayor that caused the problem, it was the council. Because the mayor didn't make any decision that the council didn't also approve. So the problem was not John, it's been the council, and you're dealing with 4 of the same people. So that's where you need to address your problem and apologize to Mr. Walsh.
For your comment. Do we have anybody else? Or anybody on Zoom? Right. So at this time, we are gonna go into deliberations. So the item is AP 2.24 through AP 6.24. Appeal of the planning commission decisions to build a triplex with multiple variants on Y Street. That was brought forth by Dan Hatfield. Who wants to jump in?
Well, what do you guys think?
Well, I'm gonna stand with the planning commission on this. We looked at it very thoroughly, we take the variances very seriously. I don't have an issue. I don't think they should be undermined any longer by this council. If they make a decision and a recommendation, I think we should go by it.
Were you at this planning commission meeting when they discussed?
Should have been,
You weren't there?
No, I was.
Oh,
I
you
just don't
were there.
remember all the
Do you
details.
feel like the presentations were different? You don't remember all the details? but I'm putting
Typically,
you on the
yes,
spot.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think, they're always a little different, right? Because it's an evolution. So when we went in the first time, I'm thinking, okay, what's the planning commission gonna do? And then they did what they did. And the one thing, you always think about, what if, we said that, and I don't have the burden of proof, the applicant does, but you try to shepherd things through. And well, God, so the one thing that we didn't get into was that the same footprint could be a duplex. Maybe that would have changed the planning commission's decision, but I think talking about the duplex being within the same footprint and basically the same plan is an evolution from the way it was presented to the commission.
Was curious. I feel like everyone deserves a fair trial, so I just want to make sure.
I guess the issues that I have are the requests for the variances. We've got these codes in place. They're there for a reason. And occasionally I think we make exceptions when it's necessary. I just don't think in this case that it's necessary, particularly with the triplex. Now, if it's a duplex, that makes it completely different to me. But I think the footprint should be narrowed down to make the setbacks a little more to code.
Okay, well, I appreciate Dan. I've worked with Dan before. It's not the way I would look at the project, but he maximizes and I appreciate that. I do think being that the code says something is destroyed, you go back to the new code. I'm not in favor of putting 6 cars up on the street because 6 means they're gonna have a couple more cars. There's not gonna be enough room there. In my heart of hearts, I'd like to see the duplex and possibly maybe a spot for 2 cars off to the side of the house paved. That would minimize street there. So those are my feelings and so I would approach it, so.
In favor of upholding the decision of the planning commission as well. I think there was a triplex there before, but that was a long time ago. Codes have changed and I think we need to abide by our current codes. And I think that a duplex would be much more appropriate in that location, especially considering the parking and the concerns of the neighbors. So that would be my vote.
I, kind of echo everyone up here, but I also believe that if we do not trust our planning commission to do their job, then, what good are we as city councilors? We need to have faith in our planning commission that they're trying their best to, make a good decision and they are just trying to follow the laws. And so I agree that we need to stand behind the planning commission with this, but I don't see any reason why we couldn't put a duplex there. And I don't think, from what I know about our planning commission, that they're gonna see any issues with that either. But I do think formality wise, doing the right thing, it should go back to them to make that decision before it comes back to us, because that's the way government works.
Agreed.
Yeah, I echo most of the counselors' opinion here, actually all of them. Like, I think that where we're at right now is we really want to utilize the planning commission. I think that their voices need to be heard. They work really hard. And it sounds to me, just by listening to Dan's public testimony and talking, or Jacob talking, that maybe there was not miscommunication, but there was an opportunity to have more communication if there was an opportunity for a duplex, or if it was communicated to the planning commission that that was an option, a viable option. Because maybe it would have ended different, right? Different, we have less variances. So, I want to see something built there because obviously it's not very appeasing having a blighted property like that. But I also, I would encourage to go back to the planning commission with a different option or presentation and, have them come to us with, well, hopefully it would never come to us because it would be approved. But I also don't think that we should be undermining our planning commission. That's my. Do we need any other discussion?
Well, and Dan mentioned he got penalized, and I don't think you look at it as penalized. We're developers, we get penalized every day with these codes, so it's, you know how it is. So it's not being penalized, it's just what they're doing now, so.
I want to encourage you that what you're doing is a good thing for St. Helens and, you know, we're welcoming to it and it looks like a nice project and I think it's going to be nice homes for somebody. So we want to see you move forward with that. I just think it really needs to be in those parameters so that we're just following the same protocol for everybody. So.
My opinion, what it's worth, I don't care. Right now is the property will have to sit there because I can't. I'm not gonna keep going back to land commission, coming here, going back, because all it is, every time I do that, it costs me money and I don't get nowhere. I mean, all I'm asking you is say, hey, yeah, you can do a duplex here, but you have to do what the planning commission said. That's all I'm asking for.
Be allowed to do that.
Oh, I mean,
Does it have to go back to you, Jacob, for a duplex?
seems like it, with all the different variances, it would have to go back to the planning commission, right?
Yeah, so if you uphold the decision of the planning commission, which is, if I put up my sails, that's where I think the wind's blowing. Then that's this decision. He can continue to appeal it to a higher authority or go back to the drawing board. The drawing board could be a new variance, which would be a new application before the planning commission, or he can decide to just work with our rules and not have to go to the planning commission at all.
You also said earlier, though, that we could grant something smaller, just not larger. So we could have the authority to grant the duplex right now.
Yeah, so, and it would be, the question would be, do you want to grant any of the variances for the duplex? For example, if you were to grant the variance for the reduced setback along Wyeth, the condition would be that it would have to be the same footprint, but that would be something he could utilize for the duplex proposal. So it would be a minor win. And then the other question would be, do you grant the off-street parking variance? Or would he just need to put them on site, which would be easier for a duplex? Because putting two on site, it's a lot easier puzzle piece to fit than 6. But that's, you know, that's kind of the question. So if you granted him that, that could help with the duplex proposal, although you're not obligated to do so.
I think we have a planning commission for a reason. I think it should go back to the planning commission for review and then come back to the council as an approved project.
I think if it was as simple as a triplex to a duplex, that might be one thing, but we're in the weeds a little bit there with the variances, which I can't speak for the rest of council, but it's out of my scope. I was not on the planning commission. I don't talk to the city planner all day. I don't know all these rules and ins and outs, so I have to trust that our planning commission needs to make that decision.
Even with the planning commission, it was okay with a duplex. I remember that.
So,
But it's the
But-
variances.
But
and sorry, but this is, I don't mean to interrupt, but this is time for the council to deliberate, and so we're not taking any more public comment, so apologies respectfully, this is up for a discussion here, deliberation between us and Jacob and other staff, so. So I'm still back to, we have a planning commission, we need to utilize the planning commission, we continue to undermine them, then that's problematic, right? It diminishes their whole capacity of what they're doing. And for me, I feel like they could just easily make those same, you know, accommodate variances that we're talking about right here. So I just is stuck on the fact that I don't think that, for me, I feel like it's prudent that we're making these approvals when the planning commission could easily do that.
I agree. I think it's gotta go back to them.
Agreed.
Good question for Jacob, but it sounds like there's some agreement on the notion of a duplex and remanding it back to the planning commission. If that's an action, the council can remand it back to the planning commission, or do they start over?
Oh, remanding? I don't think they can.
Just to keep the process alive.
Would that be helpful in his process? To remand it?
I think you wouldn't have
They kind
to
of say-
start over.
You'll have to get them on the next planning commission.
Table instead of.
I think
They're down there.
they get a, sorry.
You saying something, Jacob?
Yeah, I think they can affirm, reverse, or modify the decision. Let me. Affirm that. I don't think they can remand.
Well, I think John's saying that we remand it.
I'm
Right.
just questioning it. If it just would seem like it'd be a more efficient process to be able to just go right back to the planning commission, not reapply, pay all the fees.
I think
Yeah.
that would be very helpful.
Yes, that would, I would be. in
We
favor
can
of
make that happen. That would be ideal.
On this code. Straight.
We don't do this very often.
It's
I
Brian.
love this.
Either we usually,
No, and this is, yeah, that's why I just don't have it right at the tip of my fingertips.
Savings. The way of the fees too.
That's
There are certain areas, it's like the
Yeah.
wall. and it's maybe-
in parking. So you still gotta go through that. We haven't decided any of that, so. Let's go back to on the docket.
We can waive the fees. I think.
Next one, when they're ready.
So there's a provision in here. The approval authority shall affirm, reverse, or modify the decision which is the subject of appeal. Upon written consent of all parties to extend the 120-day limit. So what that is a local government is supposed to take action on these kind of matters within 120 days. And there are avenues for that to be extended. So upon written consent of all parties, basically, Dan has to be cool with extending that 120-day time period. The approval may remand the matter if it is satisfied that testimony or other evidence could not have been presented or was not available at the time of the hearing. And that could be the fact that Dan is willing to use the same footprint for a duplex.
Okay, that's what.
So we would need, Dan to, say that he's okay extending that 120 day time period. And then you to make findings technically as to the prejudice to parties, the convenience of ability of evidence at the time of the hearing, surprise to opposing parties, the date was noticed was given to other people. I think basically it's not some crazy surprise thing. Right, that probably sounds reasonable. So I think you can do that on motion. But it would have to be conditioned on written consent of extending the 120-day time limit.
Not sure if I understand all of
So
that.
the motion would have to be that we, with all parties, in written consent would, allow a continuous of 120 days for the planning commission to make another, like, decision on this, whether they modify it or whatever the case is.
Yeah. So the condition of the remand would be written grant of the extension of that time period for that to occur.
That would save, obviously, funds. He wouldn't have to pay any extra, so I think.
I'd be in support of that.
Yeah. Of these solutions we're having here.
Dan, what do you,
I don't quite understand the deal. You, have to come back at 120 days with a duplex written out on the plan. Is that what you're trying to say?
You have to be okay with the extra time it's gonna take.
Yeah, but do I have to put in for another variance?
No, it would be the same matter. So basically, the councils talk about punting it back to the planning commission with the new evidence that the same footprint you propose could be a duplex and doesn't necessarily have to be a triplex.
So we can make the motion and then he can decide whether that's something he would want to move forward for. So we can still make the motion, and then if he ultimately decides after this meeting to choose to do that, then we can move forward.
Yes. Yeah.
Ready to make a motion? Do we?
I'm out of word.
We're trying to figure out how to.
Out of word motion.
I know. This is.
Gunderson wants to.
So the motion would be to remand back to the planning commission with the condition that we get an extension of the 120-day rule in writing based on the new concept of it potentially being a duplex, the same footprint potentially being a duplex. I know that's wordy, I'm sorry. But you could say as stated by staff.
That's what I was gonna say. Just say as stated by city planner.
I'm completely lost. I make a motion as stated by staff to remand back to the planning commission and extend the 120 days. Does that work?
Yeah, and based on the discussion that we had.
Based on the discussion we had. That's my motion.
Second.
So we had a motion, we had a second, Counselor Sundin.
Aye.
Council President.
Aye.
Yeah, you seconded it. Counselor Hubbard.
Usually goes Gunderson.
Yeah, yeah, I'm gonna
Going out of order.
I'm gonna-
Throwing me off. I was like, I don't even know who I am
Hands on your
anymore.
toes, Counselor Gunderson, and I'm as I as well. Woo, we made it through. That was a tough first one, y'all.
Hold it out a little bit. Gonna go back to the planning commission. We can talk about the duplex and stuff.
All right, starting off on a good foot here. All right. Request for approval to extend excessive executive sessions. So I think we're just making a motion to remove this from the agenda at this time to a later date.
I'll make a motion. I need a motion for that. Or we're just gonna set it aside.
I think you need to make a motion.
I
'cause
make
it's
a
on the
motion to
table.
table the request for approval to attend executive session until we discuss this with legal.
And Counselor Sundin second, Counselor Sundin, Council President Chilton, Counselor Gunderson,
Aye.
Counselor Howard, and I'm an aye as well. Never know, I might switch it up and go the opposite way. All right, ordinance, final reading. So, I'm a bit like, how we're gonna handle this one. We had during the work session, great dialogue. City Planner Jacob Gratian did a great job on presenting this. Think that we were out of position that we wanted to reject this. Proposed rejecting this ordinance, the 3306. And just to read it for the record, ordinance number 3306 is an ordinance amending the St. Helens Municipal Code chapters 17.16, 17.32, 17.60, 17.80, and set 179.96 pertaining to multi-family development, Oregon House Bill 4064, circa 2022, regarding manufactured and prefabricated dwellings, Oregon House Bill 3395, circa 2023, regarding single room occupancies and other housekeeping amendments.
Are we going to take apart any of it to approve it today? Would that even be helpful? Would it be better if we just waited for all of it?
My hope
Put a lot of work into
My
this.
hope is we get some. And if this ordinance is rejected, we would have to create a new one. In my perfect world, the components that cause discomfort for the council would be pulled. And then we would draft a new ordinance omitting those issues. And we basically have four components. There is the attached and detached aspect for multifamily. That's the first thing we talked about based on the housing needs analysis from 2019. So where you have to have triplexes or greater, you could have smaller detached units. And because that was the key part of the code amendments, as staff, I would hope that continue, but in a new ordinance, it would be a new number for first reading at the next meeting. Then there's the manufactured and prefabricated structures. I'm assuming, based on all the conversations, that's one of the heebie-jeebie items to be pulled. But of course, you can discuss that. And then there is the single room occupancy component. And then there is the housekeeping stuff, which is a bunch of various things, but that does include that residential cap and the highway commercial. In a perfect world for me, at the very least, items A or 1 and 4 as described would continue. The single room occupancy that gives us the tools. Without that, we just don't have anything, and maybe we won't get an application sometime. And then obviously there's a lot of concern over the manufactured home stuff.
Jacob, what chapter is the manufactured home?
There's components in various chapters, but I gotta look at my.
I was just thinking if we were gonna remove the manufactured home part of it, then we would want to remove that from the ordinance, the chapter.
Yeah,
But if it's all mixed in there, then we may need to.
well, you're gonna have to rely on me to take the applicable stuff out. I know it pretty well because I've worked on it a lot. And so if you're saying, hey, take the manufactured home stuff out, I would just take it out from all the places in the amendment. I know what it is. And it's for public view. And so if other people look at it and go, hey, you didn't take this out, you said you would, then obviously, that's part of the process. But it's easy for me to look at those categories and then I can, draft it appropriately rather than focusing on the numbers. Because there's stuff kind of interwoven, because that's how the code is.
I mean, that was really the only part I felt like needed a little bit more discussion was regarding the manufactured and prefabricated dwellings. But that's just my feeling. I don't know.
I agree. I'm fairly comfortable, I think, with the rest of them.
I agree. I'd like to see the manufactured home and all the prefab buildings be on a case by case basis and not a blanket. You can put it anywhere. I just don't see that as being okay with me. I mean, if I live in a subdivision, one of the houses burns down and next thing you know, I've got it just doesn't fit in the neighborhood. So I've got issues with that. I also have issues with the state just blanketly saying you have to do this.
Yeah.
But I know I'm not going to fix that, but I think we're entitled as a city, and municipality to do what we feel is best for the city. And I think we should do what we can. It kind of goes bucks the system.
Jacob, you had a housekeeping list here on our work session. That meet pretty much everything we've discussed that you would want to see. Keep.
In what I'm calling the housekeeping category, that's not. Because the housekeeping is just a bunch of general things. It's not the specific category of the other 3 items. So yeah, that's something I would hope continues with whatever else the council feels should go. So, but basically you would reject the second reading of this ordinance, that ordinance dies, and direct staff to come back with a new ordinance omitting at least what I'm hearing is item 2 as it pertains to manufactured and prefabricated structures.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I had a few things. One is, with the multifamily development, I had having the opportunity to have the detached, the 4 on one lot, like that's something that, you know what I'm talking about when we went through earlier, like that's
Tiny
one,
home.
yeah, like that's what it makes me think of is kind of the tiny homes. I understand there's a lot size that has to be acquired there, but that's a component that also, I'm a little concerned with because what does that look like, right? In neighborhoods, all of a sudden you have a neighborhood with houses, residential, and then all of a sudden you have a lot with 4 little homes on it. I'm a bit concerned about that. That causes me a little bit of heartburn. I grew up in manufactured homes. I lived in them. My family lives in them. So I have nothing against manufactured homes. I think they're a great opportunity for a lot of people to live in. I do have concerns, as I discussed earlier today, with, having in residential areas that are stuck built houses and just kind of putting them in there. Somebody buys a house and there's a vacant property and, build one and then there's something that just rolls in. So I have an issue with that as well. I'm in support of the SRO. I think that makes sense to give you tools in your arsenal to be able to deal with those as they come across. Hopefully we won't have a lot of those, but at least that's a makes sense to me. Housekeeping, I don't have any issues that I read in those as well. So the multifamily development, I guess if I had my choice, it would exclude that piece of it. I don't remember a shall from the state that required that piece, but that's maybe something that we should consider as a council if that's something also that we want to allow for the multifamily dwellings, or we leave that to the, duplex and the triplex. And Jacob, you did a really good job on presenting today, a phenomenal job actually, and all of your, like I said, details in your staff report is pretty phenomenal. So it makes it very easy to comprehend on what you're trying to convey. But that's my feelings on it, the 4 homes and where we're placing the manufactured or prefabricated dwellings.
I'm confused. You just said that the multifamily was not a requirement from the state, but you have the Oregon House Bill listed on here. So it's not a requirement from the state?
This is the multifamily where it had the duplex and the triplex and they were separated out and you could have, like, you went through the history of them.
Yeah.
And there's an option that we have that it could have 4 homes on a property. And that's what I personally don't care for as I sit here today with the information I have, that I care for that option. All the rest of the options I liked, but maybe that should be something considered in our ordinance or.
But just to be clear, that is a mandate.
That is not a mandate.
It's the
from the
mandate.
State. The mandate, the mandates as I frame them was the manufactured stuff and the single room occupancy stuff. The code amendments to allow multifamily to be both attached and detached stems from our 2019 housing needs analysis and the goals that the council at that time set forth.
We've met our housing requirements at this point, right, from the last study that we had, so we don't necessarily need to invoke that at this time, right?
That's an argument that can be made.
I didn't know that.
Are we looking at keeping the portion on SROs and, or is that what
And then their
single,
housekeeping.
yeah, and then the housekeeping?
What I have left on here after.
That would, as far as the detached, again, for the multifamily, I would love to see something come back that excludes the 4 option or. I realize we need to do something with that, but yeah, I'm not in favor of having 4 homes. Counselor Hubbard?
Used on this one.
So the multifamily dwellings that we went through earlier, like there could be 2, they could have them separated, right? So 1 or 2. Okay, so then there's that picture that had the 4 different dwellings on the property. That's the piece that I'm not in favor of personally, because having that it's not something that you have a home and all of a sudden you got a property next to you and there's 4 different homes on it, you know what I mean? So and if it's not a mandate, is that something we want?
You know, I mean,
Well,
mandates from the state. or-
it's not a mandate.
That wasn't mandated.
That's not
Yeah,
part of the
that-
mandate.
But everybody wants, talks about tiny homes now. What are you gonna do with that?
Well, we're talking about it right now.
I know.
That's really what it is.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I think it's also to deal with neighborhoods and trying to maintain a neighborhood that we all move there for a reason. And to start pick them off and put little structures everywhere and it doesn't work for infrastructure and it doesn't work for.
my concern is that a developer buys this plot, you know, a property and like it's all subdivided out. And I could be speaking erroneously, but then subdivide it out and all of a sudden we just have a complete cluster of, you know, almost like ADUs on all these properties, right?
Possible.
It is possible. I mean, it would be alike if it was on the property that they purchased, but I can see it in that type of situation where somebody buys an investment property and that's what the intent was to develop it out, but not in a neighborhood. So maybe that is a condition of, right?
Yeah, if going back to rewrite it, that would have to be a separate process, because we've gotten all this way. So it's just a question of salvaging, something.
I think we can salvage the SRO part of it.
So that's our own housekeeping.
That sounds like to me.
I mean, that's what I'm in favor of. I mean, I applaud, like I said, I applaud the effort here, but also have made a commitment that I'm not going to, me personally, vote on something that I don't feel a conviction in. And so that's just kind of where I'm at. I'm concerned about those pieces of it.
I agree with that. Not necessarily get rid of it, but have the opportunity for further discussion.
So I think, testing the wind, right? That your motion would be to reject or deny the second reading for ordinance 3306, which kills that ordinance and directs staff to come back with a revised one that focuses on single room occupancy and the housekeeping elements only.
I'll make a motion to reject ordinance number 3306 while keeping the SRO option and the housekeeping office options in that ordinance,
It'd be a new ordinance.
in the new ordinance. Okay.
Second that.
Counselor Hubbard.
Aye.
Counselor Gunderson.
Aye.
Council President Chilton. Aye. Counselor Sundin.
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. You never know, gotta pick. All right, we are on to resolution. So resolution number 2035, a resolution of the city of St. Helens, the St. Helens City Council to set planning department fees.
We approve resolution number 2035 is read.
I'll second.
Okay. Councilor Sundin. Council President Chilton. Aye. Counselor Gunderson.
Aye.
Counselor Hubbard.
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. Resolution number 2036, a resolution appointing the budget officer for fiscal year 2025 to 2026.
I move we approve resolution number 2036.
Second. All right,
Discussion.
discussion.
Who is that person?
It's Gloria.
Okay.
Come on down. The price is right.
Oh, you're actually having.
No.
No, just kidding.
You don't need to come. I was joking.
Thank you for being here. Here. Yeah, she's like.
You accept.
First. I love that. Okay. All right, so did I do roll call on that one? No, we called her, we called her down. All right, so, Counselor Sundin.
Aye.
Council President Gilman. Aye. Counselor Gunderson.
Aye.
Counselor Hubbard.
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. Approve and or authorize for signature, lease renewal for Masonic Building at 231 and 235 South First Street.
Discussion.
Discussion.
Well, you have to make a motion and second it and then discuss it.
Make a motion to approve or authorize for signature number 6, the lease renewal for the Masonic Building.
Second.
Discussion.
Now discussion, okay. Is that market rate,
It is 60 cents a foot.
60 cents a foot? And we're using the whole building. Um,
I did try to back on.
The angle?
increase, and I was reminded that it was well below market rate.
and we don't pay taxes. on it. We as the citizens pay taxes. Lose taxes.
Building enter into a property tax exemption agreement with the building.
Okay.
Yeah, so
And then I had heard that it can only be permitted for 90 days at a time for events.
only the upstairs, no, that's unlimited. The retail component downstairs is unlimited. It's the haunted house portion of it has that 90-day limitation. Special use permit.
Fires, codes and such.
To meet fire codes, yeah, it's a building would need to have a sprinkler system or and a fire alarm system. To be able to use that year round.
And what's our
That's that
occupancy,
portion, so.
our occupancy for that haunted house? I mean,
It's just,
the fire marshal approves it to give
yeah,
it to
it's
90
it's a
days.
special category occupancy. It's like an event.
Not the Treadway office at this,
No, that's upstairs.
oh, okay.
How many consistent times can that permit before the time? Could it just be ongoing?
Like it ended and then we
It's
reapply.
90 days a year.
Oh, a year.
Yeah, we're not saying-
Okay.
trying to game the system.
Right, so it's a year.
I mean, I really don't think we need more than 3 months for a haunted house.
It works, it's financially works.
And then even in the off season, it could be used for storage or other things that don't require permits because we don't need to occupy it or something. It could be worked on. I don't know.
So part of my concerns is that I feel like for a long time, this building has been underutilized. I think just brief discussion with Treadway, they have some exciting ideas to use the space other than Halloween Town, so. They mentioned laser tag and just all kinds of neat ideas they have, so. I'm hopeful, it's a neat building, really, especially if you've never been upstairs, really beautiful space. I think there's a lot of potential there, so I hope they can put it to use.
It'd be wonderful if they had some some opportunities for youth here to do things like that.
What do you think about that, Russ?
Yeah, utilizing the property, I think that's great, but 3 months is, it's hard to justify, but if they can utilize it, I'm sure they will, because they'll figure a way out. We've put in a lot of money for remodeling something.
A fair amount, there's and we've had a pretty active discussions on what it would take to get it up to code status that would be usable year round for that space too, and looking at grants or things of that nature to help pay for the fire sprinkler. It's a pretty expensive item though.
Yes, I know.
You probably know better than I, so.
All right. Any more discussion or are we ready to make a motion?
We have a motion in second. So we're
No,
ready
there
to
we
vote.
go. Yes. Over here. Counselor Sayers. Council President Joel. Counselor Gunderson. Counselor Hubbarth. And I'm an I as well. All right, final partition plat for the Leo Hotel Village Inn.
Make a motion to approve and or authorize for signature, line item 7, the final partition plat for the Oyo Hotel / Village Inn.
Yep. All right, Counselor Sundin.
Aye.
Council President Chilton. Aye. Counselor Gunderson.
Aye.
Counselor Hubbard.
Aye.
And I'm an I as well. All right, next is review applications for and appoint new budget committee member. We have the applications. And also I do want to mention that we do have one of the applicants, Jeremy Evans, that I did encourage to apply sometime, and I can't recall the exact date. It may have been, I don't know, June or July sometime, I had seen him at Plymouth Club. And he was talking about the fact that he would like to be part of a committee. He is an actuarius, and so I encouraged him at that time that he should apply if something should come forward in the future. So when the option or the opportunity came up, I did contact him and suggested that, hey, you should put your name in for an application. We have any discussions on, we need to vote on it, don't we? Kathy, we need to have the discussions and vote.
We need to make a motion second and then discuss first.
Well, no, you can discuss it ahead of time. Trying to find my applications.
I didn't bring mine
So
with
we
me.
had, it's 5 applicants, right? Do you have it up there?
We had a lot of, I was impressed with the amount.
I gotta dig through my back. Huh? Yeah, it was to fill my position on the. Oh my gosh, gotta find it again. You have it up there, John. Can you make it, can you make it much bigger?
It's on page 43, John.
Well, yeah, I know who the people are. So we had 5 applications. We had Marisha Schwartz, we had Brady Preheim, Jay, I'm gonna not pronounce it right, Esternach. We had Joshua Walter and Jeremy Evans. And this term goes from 1/7/2025 to when did it go? 2027, is that right? 27?
I think it might, I don't remember.
Okay, but it's basically, oh, I think it's 26, actually. If it was taking my spot, it was 26. It's 26. Any discussions on?
We don't, I personally like to see, people that haven't sat on the budget committee on the budget committee, because I think it's really eye-opening to see how government works and just the ins and outs of money going in and out of the city and how that works. And a lot of people, learn a lot that way. So that's what I personally like to see. So I know, can't recall if Jay was on the budget committee before. I don't think he was, but I don't
I
recall.
was gonna say that's kind of my process too is, I think Brady did a great job when he was on there, but I feel like he's had the opportunity. Jay, I believe, just got appointed to the library board, so he has an opportunity now that he's serving the community. I would like to give some of these other people a chance that maybe haven't had the opportunity to serve on a board or commission.
I will say the one that caught my eye is Marissa Swartz. She's got a lot of financial experience. Being a corporate financial controller. I think that would be a very valuable benefit. The other ones that I believe also applied for the planning commission.
Josh Walter.
I believe it was Jay. On the other for the planning commission, but I'm not opposed to, just somebody getting in and learning how the ins and outs of the two, because I think it's important.
So I was looking at this and with Josh Walter, I love the fact that he put his name out for 3 different positions, and the top one was planning commission, second park and trail, and budget committee. It seems like he is very much wanting to be involved in some activities, which I think is phenomenal, having new individuals to step up to the plate and want to get involved. I think that that's fantastic. I mean, Jay just got obviously on the library board, so I think that he's probably gonna be busy there in an important position as well. Brady, I actually will give kudos to. I thought he did a great job when he was on the budget committee last time. May not agree with almost everything he says, but I will say that I agree with a lot of things on the financial side that he presented. Marissa, fact that she does have corporate experience being a corporate financial controller. She's, you know, obviously qualified. And then, you know, I'm not sure if you all understand what an actuarius does, but they're the mathematicians of all mathematicians. That's what they do: strategic planning, math, strategy, strategic planning, risk management, all of those things that play into it. So for me, my top two choices based on the actual budget committee would be, you know, my first choice would be Jeremy, and then Marissa, based on the strategic planning, which is I think where we're at, like help with that mathematically, considering where we're at with our budget and where we want to go.
I think I'm leaning towards Marissa just based on her background and her skill set.
Agreement with you, and Marissa sounds great. Jeremy sounds also good, so it's sort of hard, I guess. I tend to go towards more of the business. Wait, how come shocking? I don't know why. Where I'm at.
Yeah, I think going with Marissa sounds like the way to go, and we'll just. Mr. Jeremy, if you're listening, and there's plenty of other budget committees and boards that need volunteers and people with skills, so. But I do think Marissa's background sounds really appealing. I haven't seen her name in, you know, things before. I think it's a good chance for her to come see what we're doing here and what it's all about, so.
Yeah, you can see her getting involved. She's getting more involved, like she is involved with the, you know, getting involved with the school district and all things. So this is, I think, a citizen that is starting to step up to the plate and
Yeah.
wanting to be involved. So I think it's phenomenal that we have, again, some new individuals that are wanting to partake in this civic engagement here. So are we?
Let's invite her in then.
All right, so if somebody want to make a motion?
I make a motion to appoint Marissa Swartz to the budget committee.
Second,
Who seconded it? Which one of you?
Rusted, Counselor Hubbard.
Oh, Counselor Hubbard seconded that, Kathy. Counselor Sundin,
Aye.
Counselor, or President, Council President Chilton,
Aye.
Counselor Gunderson,
Aye.
Counselor Hubbard. And I am going to be an aye as well. All right, appointments to city boards and commissions. Appointment to Parks and Trails Commission.
Man, I'm sad to see Nick go. Not being in here anymore, but that's a rough one. I enjoy Nick, so.
Still see him.
Ms. Green was appointed or recommended for appointment at Monday evening Parks and Trails Commission meeting.
So if you want a little background on that, Lucas Green is a young man, lives here in the community, the early 20s. Initially, I got in touch with him, I don't know how many months ago it was, when it was still halfway warm out, but I saw a post on Facebook where he posted some information about some spot of land where the Parks and Trails Commission is proposing to put the Milton Creek Woodland Reserve that they came to talk to us about. And he says, can you believe the city is planning on tearing all this down and building industry and all this here? And so I reached out to him and I said, actually, the Parks and Trails Commission is really working to preserve that area. And I spent a few hours with him going down through the area. He's very well versed in the flora and fauna and can identify about any amphibian and reptile and very passionate. So he started participating in the Parks and Trails Commission and showing up to some of the meetings. And as you saw, he was on Zoom that night where they presented a portion of the presentation to us. So seems very knowledgeable and very excited to be a part of it. So
Good job, Brandon.
interviewed and
Outstanding thing you did.
no,
Good job.
he did it. So but no, they interviewed him and recommended him to be appointed.
That mean you want to make a motion to appoint him to person? I feel like I heard that from you.
Make a motion to appoint Lucas Green to the Trails Commission.
Well, I'll second that.
All right, Counselor Sundin.
Aye.
Council President Chilton.
Aye.
Counselor Gunderson.
Aye.
Counselor Hubbard. And I'm an aye as well. All right. Moving on to consent agenda for approval. So we have Number 10, approve budget budget calendar for fiscal year 25-26. 11, city council minutes dated November 6th, 2024, November 20th, 2024, December 4th, 2024, December 18th, 2024, and January 2nd, 2025. And 12, accounts payable bill list.
I'll make a motion to consent agenda for approval, line items 10, 11, and 12. It's read.
Counselor Sundin.
Aye.
Council President Chilton. Aye. Counselor Gunderson.
Aye.
Counselor Hubbard. Aye as well. All right, move on to work session action items.
So earlier in today's work session, we discussed changing the council work session times. There's gonna be, I think we're planning on some further changes and with a little bit more dialogue about what that's gonna look like. But for now, we would like to try to change the times to accommodate working people on this council and try to make the times a little bit better for them, and then also working people in the community to attend meetings and kind of push them back a little bit in the daytime. So I'm gonna make a motion. I move to change the start time of our council work session and our council operating rules to accommodate a new start time of 3 p.m.
Second.
All right, Counselor Sundin.
Aye.
Council President Chilton. Aye. Counselor Gunderson. Counselor Hubbard. And I'm an aye as well. We also were gonna discuss the July and August. Oh, yeah. The first week in July and August are not having council meetings. That way, people could plan vacations, and it's been a hindrance for, staff and having that flexibility. I personally am not opposed to it.
And especially July, I think that makes sense with, like we said earlier, we've got the 4th of July, you've got the Kiwanis Parade in the middle of June, you've got Citizens Day. It's nice to
We need a break.
give people a little bit of a break, so.
And if there's something that comes up, right, I mean, we can do a special session or something of the sort, so. Hubbard, do you have an opinion on that? I think so, okay, so,
To take the whole summer
yeah,
off.
does anybody want to make a motion that we have council meetings would be the first week in July and first week in August?
Have we done both of those before? Is that?
I think so.
There's precedent for that. Sure. Yep.
We gotta make
I make a motion to cancel our work session and regular session of council meetings for the first meeting in July and the first meeting of August.
Second. Perfect. Counselor Sundin.
Aye.
Council President Chilton. Counselor Gunderson.
Aye.
Counselor Hubbard.
Aye.
And I'm an aye as well. All right, we made it. Is there anything else that I have forgotten before we get into counselor member reports? Okay, success. So counselor member reports. Counselor Sundin, would you lead us off here?
Yeah, I don't have a lot I wanted to talk about tonight. Just did want to report we did have on Monday, a meeting of the Parks and Trails Commission. They had a good meeting. Discussed a number of things, including next steps on the Milton Creek Woodland Reserve Project. And I think the understanding there with Jacob is that they're going to work with you, try to come up with a better map and kind of delineate the area that they're talking about. So if you haven't already, I think Jerry was the one that was going to work with you to do that.
Okay, yeah, nobody's talked to me yet.
Okay. So yeah, that just happened Monday, so they'll be reaching out, I'm sure. Also discussed urban trail project that especially Jerry Belcher's been working on for a number of years, and discussing how they can hope to, once the first phase of the riverfront project is completed, hopefully start moving forward with that project as well. If you're not familiar with that, basically a walking path around town that visits several of the parks and goes down along the riverfront. So really good thing. There were 2 vacancies on the commission with the Reed Herman that was on the commission resigned and was appointed to the planning commission. And then we had Nick Helmick resign as well. So they were happy to have Lucas apply and think he's going to be a good fit, and are excited to have somebody that's quite a bit younger than the rest to hopefully give a little bit different perspective. So good things going on there. Again, want to thank Chief Hogue and the police department for all the good work that they're doing. And I think that's all I've got tonight.
All right, Council President Shelton.
Well, I first off wanted to start off by saying, welcome, Mayor Massey. It's been, it was a nice experience so far today. I didn't really know what to expect, to be honest, but it was really smooth and I really appreciate your openness and willingness to work as a team. And I think we're gonna see a lot of great things happen for the city, and just being able to feel like everybody up here can talk and have a voice is really, really nice. So welcome and thank you. And then I wrote something down that I just wanted to read. So it's just based off of something that was said earlier in the work session and public comment. So something said earlier today saddened me. The statement was along the lines of bringing new residents to St. Helens that have good jobs to patronize our businesses. I think that we should be focused on bringing good paying jobs to the people of St. Helens, the generations of families that are already here. Project Arcadia is the start of that, and we need to continue looking for opportunities and ways to get our high school graduates into good paying jobs and programs, because we should be bringing that money to St. Helens. That should be the goal of St. Helens, and to keep the money here in our county. And so I think that whole mindset is really just sad, and we need to change that mindset and bring the money to St. Helens and to the people that live here and the people that want to continue to live here and have their kids come back after college and live here. So that's very important to me. I just wanted to say that.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that.
I also don't have a lot to say. I would like to say though, about a year and a half ago, Chief Smythe came, I think it was about a year and a half ago, and wanted a liaison from the council. And the council all agreed that it would be a good idea. I took on that role. They were not doing very well financially. They weren't very, but I wanted to give a shout out and kudos to both Local 3215 and Dustin King, who's done an amazing job working with, it's been a whole team effort, and with Chief Smythe. They were able to make payroll and do all their, and save enough money to buy a new ambulance. They never had to borrow any money. They are on track. I'm very proud to be part of that.
Good to hear that.
I believe the ambulance is expected to be arriving in May. I'd also like to thank Martin Shearer Jr. I think that's the first time I've ever seen him without his hat on. Very proud of you. We've been friends for a long, long time, and I hope we're good friends with him for a lot longer. All I got.
Councilor Hubbard.
Well, welcome also. I think we're gonna have good times getting some stuff done. The library is excited about their new makerspace. And I know they're working hard. They're not taking possession yet, but they're getting all ready to move things into it, and they're putting people together to get things to put in there and making a list, and I'm gonna try and help them on that. I did get fired tonight from the library, but that's okay.
I was gonna say,
You're around still. Just joking. So no, it's, oh, well, I'll be around still.
Really?
I won't check a book out. I don't read very well. And one other thing tonight, when we had Dan Hatfield come up, I think we handled that well. I think beyond that was him buying a piece of property, he could do something with, but that property sat for 4 to 5 years, burnt, hazardous structure. As the one neighbor lady came in and spoke that there would inhabitants in there shouldn't have been in there. There's problems. Where's our ordinance that something cannot stand like that for a long time? Do we have something that says dangerous structures? I know we pulled something down below here in Gracie's.
I believe it's the same dangerous building code, which I'm not an expert of because
That took 10 years. That thing was ready to fall down. So I'm just thinking if we could get a better look at these structures that really makes our town look like hell. We're trying to do so much that if we can take structures like that and have them do something, get them safe for one. They don't have to bring them up to building codes right away, but at least don't leave them in such disrepair. And especially that fire burned out one, that's an eyesore to the neighborhood and dangerous, so.
maybe incentivizing owners to, with maybe some breaks and keys or something to get it tore down at least, and the property to be,
Well, I think in ordinance, they can unless they're gonna go for a permit, maybe with a certain amount of time, they have to, do something with it. And there, yeah, there's a loss like that because you're waiting for insurance and all that sort of stuff, so you can take that into account. Or it's for 4 years or not, there's no reason for that.
Yeah, and they generally turn into flop houses and, that type of thing.
And the way that was left, it was dangerous. So.
Okay, thank you. All right, so I'm gonna try not being long-winded because I generally am, but first of all, I want to thank each one of you. So I am super proud, humbled, and excited to be part of this council. I'm really excited about what an opportunity to do. I think we've actually worked through a lot of things today. I also want to extend my thank you to all the staff that work for the city. Maybe they're not told enough that they're appreciated and valued, but they definitely are. I want to give kudos to the Public Works team that completed the valve replacement on First and Second Street. They did a phenomenal job on that, and it was great sharing the pictures and letting people know what some pipe fitting and stuff is. So I wanted to extend a thank you to Jenny Dimshow. She took the time. I know that she was busy, but she took the time to provide Russ and I a walk around to show us, stuff that you really kind of can't expect and see. So that was very much appreciated, as well as Jacob on his reports. Thank you to Darren for IT for getting council new phones. So we all have cell phones now. Our numbers should be populated on the website very soon. And that way people can get a hold of us as you see fit. It's an easier way to connect with us. So I appreciate the fact they did that. And John, thank you for helping expedite that. Citizens Day in the Park. I'm excited that that's still on the docket, that we're looking at an opportunity to still do that. I think that having an opportunity where people can get together and just engage with each other is great. And I'm excited for the potential for Treadway to take it on, because I highly doubt that the staff can actually show up and really enjoy themselves and commingle with citizens and everything else when they are probably exhausted from putting it together. So I'm excited about that opportunity as well. The police department. So that's a hot topic. I'm excited to see the plans, the rendering of the police station up on the wall here come February. And basically getting back to it, like my personal goal is to be breaking ground in 6 months. Like we sat on this, we kicked the can, it's time to roll up our sleeves and let's get going. So I'm excited to get that expedited, and I'm really looking forward to that joint council planning commission meeting on the 5th. I want to thank Chief Hogue for being here and being present. It's nice to have you here, and obviously all the work. Hometown Heroes. Obviously, that was a bit of the surprise to council. Did not know that that was happening. But I did want to mention that I worked with Kathy and we put together a form for public service, military background information collection form that will go out on the website. So if somebody would like to fill it out, and also if somebody wants to nominate someone else, I was thinking of Iris. Would love to get her down here to talk about her husband that had served. But it's just a good opportunity to get that out there. Also, I was really excited about the concept that John brought forth when I started talking about this, about doing the hometown heroes in the plaza and really, celebrating our hometown heroes. So he jumped right on that and started putting some information together. So I think that that's vitally important to celebrate the people that are sacrificing their lives, including public service. So I'm excited to see what happens there. And a special thank you to Kathy Payne and Lisa Scholl with their patience. I've asked a lot of questions. They provided me with all the information that I have requested in a very expedited manner. So I want to say thank you for just helping me get up to speed and having patience and grace. And with that, I'm going to adjourn this meeting.